A moderate risk for the southeastern United States. Can you believe it? It's been quiet the past 5 years, but we got a moderate risk here. So in this episode of State of the Weather Address, I'm going to go over a potential tornado outbreak that could occur in this area right here. Severe weather, possible tornadoes, possible strong tornadoes. I'm going to go over that, and then I'm also going to go over a cutting-edge new tool that I've made called the Wheel of Tor, and how that can really show the environment how favorable it is for tornadoes. And we're going to go over a couple of different cities using that tool in this episode. And I'm going to show you how you can use it, and you can use it, really anyone can use it, okay? So we're going to talk about that, and I'm not going to get too hypey here. This is not going to be like the out-of-control hype storm that is on the media. This is just for people that want to view some good old raw, old-fashioned meteorological content. So let's get into this episode of State of the Weather Address. Now, if you want to follow along and use that Wheel of Tor that I talked about yourself, I actually have a PDF. You can click the link in the description below. If you want access to it, click on it. Go ahead and enter your name and your email address. I'll send it off to you, and I'll send you some more free, awesome weather tutorials and forecasts. There's cheat sheets in there. There's tools and all this type of stuff for tornado forecasting. So if you want that, go ahead and click the link in the description below. But without further ado, let's crack into this. So here we are. It's early April already. Spring is here, and we got a very active start to the tornado season here. Very close to record-breaking tornadoes so far this season. This is for Wednesday right now. We're looking at the jet stream. We're looking at the lift in the jet stream. This is the vorticity, absolute vorticity. It's got lift in the jet stream here. This is our trough. This is going to move eastward, and it's going to light up this area like a Christmas tree over the next day or two. There's going to be storms all over the place, from Georgia, maybe even Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, out into the Carolinas, into Thursday here. So Wednesday and Thursday is what we're looking at here. And you want to look for areas of divergence. Here's your trough. Your best lift is going to be right out ahead of this vorticity, this positive vorticity. When you see it move eastward like this, okay, the best storms are going to be right out ahead of it. And this is a very dynamic system. You got some more lobes down here as well, which could spark storms out along and ahead of that as well. You also want to look for divergence. And we got a lot of that as well. These height lines, when they start to diverge kind of like this, see how they're splitting apart? It's the atmosphere is pulling air, kind of stretching it apart like that, and at the surface it's going to want to lift and fill its spot, okay? Because there's a hole there now, so it has to fill its spot. And that's going to create a lot of storms for this area as far maybe north as Illinois and Indiana. So we're going to have to watch that closely here. So we're going to fast forward this into the day on Wednesday and Wednesday evening when the storms really get going around 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. You can see this thing's really entering the area. This is at 7 p.m. Your best storms are going to be kind of in this area right here. You got some more of these lobes here, which are little tiny blips in the jet stream. That could create some storms as well out ahead of them. So this is going to be a very dynamic system, widespread storms all over the place. But we're going to see some storms. We're going to see multiple rounds earlier in the day on Wednesday, maybe another round, and then late in the day along the cold front that moves through right when this trough enters the area. And this will push through on the day Thursday and really slam into the East Coast. So really, this whole area right here under the gun for severe weather. Now, what's the tornado potential look like, and what's all the hazards look like? We're going to get into that next. So we need 4 ingredients for severe weather and tornadic development: wind shear, lift, instability, and moisture. We already got lift crossed off the list as we just went over. Now we're going to look at wind shear. This is the upper level jet stream. You're looking at 300 millibars here. This is the jet stream. We got a subtropical jet down here, and we got a main trough right here attached to the main jet. These two are going to merge together. They're kind of merging together, and it's going to give out a widespread area of flow for the southeastern and eastern United States. That's going to create a widespread area of thunderstorms. What you want in the upper levels is strong winds like this. You got 100 miles an hour out here. And if you think about your thunderstorm, here's your thunderstorm right here. what you want is, here's your updraft right here, and you want strong winds. The strong winds are going to push the precipitation away from the updraft, and all the precip's going to fall this way, so it's not going to come back down on the updraft and smother it. So it keeps these storms building, growing, turning into machines. And so we'll go through the day on Wednesday here. This is Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening now, around 4 p.m. You got this giant, or a nice little jet streak right here, 100 knots. This is pushing eastward. That subtropical jet's kind of merging into it. And you can see the setup's really coming together around 4 p.m. Between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., this area is going to light up like a Christmas tree. So let's watch what happens here as we advance towards 7 p.m. Really starts to strengthen. And notice this back side of the jet is starting to move eastward. And this is kind of where your storms are going to be, on this side of the jet stream. That's going to really amplify that storm potential overnight. You're going to have a very widespread area of storms, and that's going to move eastward into Georgia and the Carolinas on Thursday, or early Wednesday morning into Thursday, and that's going to really create the storm severe weather for that area. So let's look at the thermal analysis, where all our fronts are, what the precipitation is going to look like, and all of that, and real quickly. All right, so this is at 4 p.m., I believe. Now this is at 1 p.m. We're going to advance forward one frame. This is going to be at 4 p.m., right when the activity is kind of moving in, right when that trough's moving in. Here's our low pressure system right here. Remember, low pressure system, cyclonic flow. And our fronts are going to be kind of, a warm front maybe out here-ish in this area. Our cold front out in this area right here. And our storms are going to be out ahead of these. You might get some severe weather along this warm front up in Indiana and Illinois potentially, and maybe even Michigan. So there'll be some severe weather up there as far north as that warm front. You also get some severe weather out ahead of this cold front. That's where going to be the most widespread area of storms. And you also might get some severe weather early in the day, kind of from leftover storms out here. They may re-strengthen. And notice this area right here. This is early morning storms that moved eastward. Those could re-strengthen. It also laid out kind of a boundary. There's a boundary right here, okay, and it's feeding kind of into that cold front a little bit, and that's going to create some enhanced wind shear, enhanced helicity along that front, and extra convergence. So there's going to be some storms, some potentially tornadic weather that occurs kind of in this area right here through the day on Wednesday, especially into the northern half of Georgia and the northeastern half of Alabama, and maybe even southern Tennessee. That area, very good wind shear for tornadoes. Another area for potential tornadoes is up near the surface low, out in kind of Indiana, Michigan, and parts of Illinois, kind of right there. So these two areas, this is what I'm so far seeing is the best area for tornadic development. So it's time to zoom on in and get super detailed, close and personal with this setup here. We got our low pressure system kind of sitting out here. You can see that right there, that cyclonic flow right there getting sucked into it. And our warm front's probably going to be somewhere kind of out here. You can see the winds back easterly along that front. And when you get that southerly to kind of easterly shift, there's a front there. You kind of see a kink in the isobars. And our cold front's going to be kind of right in this area right here, getting backed into that surface low as well. Winds kind of westerly behind it and southerly out ahead of it, and we have a moist axis. You can see this moisture. This is the dew points we're looking at. Very deep moisture south, and it kind of continues to feed into that low pressure system up there. And so that is where our storms are going to kind of develop here. Along this, and also along this front here, this cold front right here. These are the areas you're going to see storms, but we also have this boundary right here. You see that right there? Got to watch that because that's very important as well. You can see the southerly winds there, and then it's easterly. But there's a lot of storms here, and it's creating a cold pool, a little mini cold front here, creating a little bit of a boundary. And you can see that rich moisture out of the Gulf streaming north, and it's kind of pooling along it. It's kind of like a wall, so it's just kind of getting pooled along it. And so really, there's going to be many different areas for severe weather tomorrow. really any areas along those fronts I've listed out. But the best tornado potential, okay, let's try that again. The best tornado potential is going to be where the richest moisture is here and kind of near this boundary where you see the southerly, southeasterly winds. Best tornado potential is probably going to be in this area. And then also kind of near the surface low, along that warm front. If there's enough moisture up there, if there's enough destabilization up there, we could get another area of tornadoes up there. And even this area has the potential for tornadoes, but I think the best area is going to be along and kind of southeast of that boundary and ahead of that cold front. That's the best area for tornadoes. This is 4 p.m. on Wednesday. You can see as we go towards 7 p.m., that thing continues to move east. Actually, this is 10 p.m., and what we were looking at was 7 p.m., but anyway, this continues to move east. And our richest moisture out in this area, storms, Georgia, Carolinas overnight, that's going to be a concern as well. So with that said, let's get into that simulated reflectivity radar real fast. And we can look at kind of how this is going to play out zoomed in. We'll go back to 24 hours here. All right, so let's put a loop on this thing so we can watch this thing play out. This is at Wednesday morning. You can see those lines of storm. That's going to be your first wave. That's going to move eastward. Now watch what happens throughout the day here. On Wednesday, we'll move this eastward. That's going to lay out a boundary. It's going to kind of lay out a boundary in this area. You got some convergence, kind of a moisture convergence zone right there. And then you got your cold front here, your warm front up here, your low pressure system kind of somewhere out there. And you get storms all over these fronts. Again, really any area has the potential to produce a tornado, but I think the best area is going to be up here and then down in this area. But we're going to see multiple waves of storms, several waves, especially in Georgia here. You got your first wave, then maybe another one, and then another one behind it as we go through the day on Wednesday. This is currently at 4 p.m., so we're going to go 7 p.m. That cold front's really going to take over. You can see it move eastward. You're going to have some lines, broken lines along that cold front move eastward into the Carolinas overnight. And again, severe weather, maybe even some tornadoes possible through the day on Thursday. So moisture is there, instability is there, lift is there. How about that? Moisture is there, shear is there, lift's there. How about the instability? So we'll look at that. Mixed layer CAPE. This is kind of the average CAPE in the atmosphere. There are multiple layers. This is at 4 p.m. We definitely have some good instability. 7 p.m. it starts to die out. But we'll look at 4 p.m. right as storms are developing. Very good instability for Georgia and Alabama. That's the best moisture area too, and those kind of work hand in hand there. The big question is how much instability and moisture are going to reach farther north along the surface low. If there's a lot of moisture and instability up here, you could see a greater tornado threat up here than what it looks like right now, but that'll be a big thing to watch. But right now the best area looks to be in that moderate risk area. So with all that said, let's put all this together into the tool I was talking about called the Wheel of Tor. And now we're going to talk about the Wheel of Tor. This is a cutting-edge new tool that I've developed to assess tornado potential for a specific location for a specific time. This is for Atlanta, Georgia, or just southwest of Atlanta, Georgia, at 4 p.m., okay? This is going to be at 4 p.m. And the values closer to 10 equal a higher tornado potential. The values closer to 0 equal a lower tornado potential. So when you see these values closer to 10, probably a better chance of a tornado. And this thing averages out about a 7 to 8 out of 10. And, I don't really pay attention to those torcons, but I actually think the torcon's a 7 or 8 out of 10 for that area. So that's kind of interesting how that works there. But these are ingredients that indicate tornado potential that are necessary for tornadoes. And I've compiled the ideal ingredients, the ideal levels for ingredients, from research, from the SPC, from my own experience of storm chasing, and I've put it together into a package here. And all of the cheat sheets, the exact values, are in that book in the link in the description, as well as this Wheel of Tor. But that being said, we got a lot of values in the 9s and 10s here. Okay, Atlanta, Georgia, as we went over, has very good moisture, very good deep layer shear, and very good instability as well. Okay, especially surface-based CAPE. There's a little bit of concern about the low-level shear out in this area. How much turning is there going to be? That's going to be a concern. And the cap, is it going to go all at once? Is it going to stay more a little bit stout for more isolated supercellular activity? And how much surface instability do we get? If we get enough, that should be all right. If we don't get enough, that could be a washout. This really could be a washout if those, these three things are weaker than what it indicates here. So, but that being said, this indicates a pretty good tornado potential for Atlanta, Georgia. Pretty good tornado potential, 7 to 8 out of 10. This is a different location. This is Evansville, Louisiana. And you can see this is a 5 out of 10 on average, maybe a 4 out of 10. Very good deep layer shear up here. It's actually even better up here, better wind shear. But you can see the low-level shear, not so great. Low-level helicity, all that, not so great. This is just south of that warm front near that surface low. If you go just a little bit farther north, things improve quite a bit right along that warm front. So you're going to have to be very close to that warm front for that tornado potential. So kind of in between the two areas that I was talking about, you're going to have this issue right here with a little bit weaker low-level shear and potentially some moisture problems, not overly bad, but maybe less instability as well. So those are going to be some factors. So you might have a little bit of a messier, unorganized storm mode in this area, maybe not as much tornadoes. But right along that warm front, just north of here, between Louisville and Evansville, just north of that area, along that warm front, there could be an enhanced tornado potential that's a little bit greater than this. Could end up being like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 rather than a 4 or 5 out of 10. So that's Evansville. And then our last one I'm going to go over is Birmingham, Alabama, right in the center of Alabama here. This is another 7 out of 10, maybe even an 8 out of 10 for this area. The instability is just off the charts. The surface-based instability for this time of year for that area, very good, 10 out of 10. And low-level shear is all right. Okay, it's not great, but it's all right. But that instability can kind of offset that a little bit. Okay, so we got some good instability. The moisture, LCLs, and deep layer shear, pretty good. Maybe a 7 out of 10 on average. And so overall, I would say that this is an above average tornado threat for this area, about a 7 out of 10. So that's probably, 10%, 15% hatched worthy, SPC-wise for that area. So that's probably what it's going to be. Risk-wise, that's my prediction for that area. And along that warm front, maybe a 5% tornado, maybe a 10%. We'll see. But all in all, that's what the tornado threat looks to be for those areas. I think the greatest threat, again, Alabama and Georgia. So the big questions are, how much, can we get that surface heating? Probably looks like it's going to be the case, but can we get the surface heating? To get that instability. How much shear are we going to get? How much low-level shear? How much low-level turning? If we don't get enough of that, this could be kind of a linear, messy storm mode. And, how far north does that moisture reach as well? The moisture looks very good farther south, but how far does that go? So those would be the big questions of this setup. It could be isolated or it could be messy. And how strong is that cap going to be as well? So those are the questions. Those are usually the concerns in the southeast with these types of setups anyway. And overall, it looks like maybe a 7 out of 10 in terms of tornado potential and maybe a couple of strong tornadoes as well. But it'll be shaky with that low-level shear. So with that being said, if you want more of these videos, if you want more of these forecasting breakdowns, forecasting tutorials, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Right in the middle of this page, click subscribe. I'll be releasing these on a bi-weekly basis. And if you want access to the PDF with this Wheel of Tour thing, click the link in the description. I'll send it right off to you. And also, if you want to watch the video where I go over how to use this thing, and I go into detail with each of these 3 locations, we go into extra analysis for this tornado setup. I'll teach you some more things and talk about some more things. Go ahead and click the video here in the middle of the screen, and it'll link you, and it'll take you right to that video, and you can get started right away using this Wheel of Tour. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in today's video, and I'll see you soon.